Hello, and I've been playing Jedi Knight Fallen Order on Xbox, and I'm now going to go through what I've spotted in the game that you may not have noticed, that are from previous encounters in the Star Wars universe. There's some standard TIE fighters, and we have some Venator-class Star Destroyers that you would have seen first in Attack of the Clones, and then later on in the Clone Wars Star Wars series. And we have an Imperial probe droid. Would have seen one of those first being shot at and blown up by Han Solo in The Empire Strikes Back. Okay, so we have an Abednego, who we first saw in The Force Awakens. LOSD, the most famous pilot for the Resistance in that film. It's an L1 tactical droid. Some variations of this droid that we've seen in Solo, a Star Wars story, and also in Rogue One on the planet Jeddah. Okay, we have an R4 astromech droid. You can just see there with the conical head, first seen on the Tantive 4 in Star Wars A New Hope. Okay, a droid control ship. One of the first images we saw in the Phantom Menace. In the game, it's called a separatist ship. It's not necessarily a control ship, but they tend to have a similar design. Some of these ships were used by the fledgling rebels in the book Tarkin. Okay, this is a GNK droid, or a Gonk droid, that was famous in the first film, A New Hope, famously just going gonk, gonk on the Jawa Sandcrawler. Here we have another one just on the right there. There's quite a few within the game, and they're quite common now within the Star Wars universe. Okay, here we have a Rodian and an R5 astromech there on the left. Rodian is, of course, the species of Greedo, who did not shoot first in the cantina, and the R5 unit we would see being sold to Luke Skywalker in A New Hope by the Jawas. There's another Rodian here on the left on the train sequence. Okay, we have some clone trooper helmets just dotted around. It'll be quite neat and tidy. There's possibly an armory on board the Venator class starship that's being dismantled. And these are helmets that would have been seen first in The Revenge of the Sith, Star Wars Episode 3. Okay, we have a Duros here on the left, I think. Made famous by Cad Bane in the Clone Wars TV series. He's a bounty hunter. Also, would have seen a few times if you'd played Battlefront or Battlefront 2. Okay, here we have some ATTEs and some ATSTs. The ATTEs were battle tanks used by the clone troopers during the Clone Wars. The ATST, obviously, we first saw briefly in The Empire Strikes Back, and a lot more in The Return of the Jedi. Here we have the Iblis Mor. It's a giant creature there on the left with the massive tentacles. It consists of a number of mouths connected by a vast digestive system located hundreds of meters below the surface of the planet. They use these here to they feed the scrap to the creature to help get rid of the rubbish on the planet. Here we have the wreck of a Jedi starfighter. You would have seen this variant of the ship first in the Revenge of the Sith, being flown by Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think there's been some suggestion on the internet that this is Obi-Wan's version of the ship, which he would have lost at the beginning of the Revenge of the Sith, but at this point I don't think there's any confirmation that it is. It could really be anybody's. A number would have been used by various Jedi Knights throughout the time of the Old Republic. Okay, this corridor is very similar to the corridors that you would have seen on the Death Star and on the various Star Destroyers during the original trilogy, but I believe, if you carry on with the story, that this is actually the corridor from a Venator-class Star Destroyer that would have been used by the Republic during the Clone Wars, so you would have seen these similar corridors if you'd watched the Clone Wars series. Here we have a Lasat. We first saw one of these in Star Wars Rebels. One of the main characters, Zeb, is a Lasat. Many of them were wiped out by the Empire. Okay, next up is the common Imperial Stormtrooper. They have the original design helmets from A New Hope, but they were redesigned for the Return of the Jedi. So I'm glad they kept the continuity in there. This goes on to, we see the new Purge Troopers, which are actually clones that were bred from the Jango Fett DNA, and were the last of the clones created before the Camino clone facilities were shut down by the Empire. They are dedicated to hunting down Jedi, specifically because of Order 66. Here we have a TIE Interceptor. First saw these in the Return of the Jedi. I'm a bit surprised to see them this early in the timeline. This is the second sister. She is one of the Inquisitors that were trained by Darth Vader and the Emperor to hunt down any Jedi Knights, Jedi Masters that survived the Order 66 at the end of the Clone Wars. You'll have seen these first in Star Wars Rebels. The Grand Inquisitor was sent to hunt down Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger by Darth Vader. They tend to be trained from children that had been taken from their families. The Grand Inquisitor himself was a guard in the Jedi Temple. Later on in the story, I think we'll find out the origins of the second sister. The ninth sister is a Dowatin, who we first saw one of these in The Force Awakens in Maz Kanata's castle. Next up, the Inquisitors tend to use a double-bladed lightsaber. It spins in the middle, which is a great tactic if you really want to kill your opponent. Very effective weapons. Obviously, it's very similar to the double-bladed lightsaber that we first saw in The Phantom Menace being used by Darth Maul. Okay, this next blue character is a Pantoran. George Lucas played one in The Revenge of the Sith, one of the Emperor's advisors. Also see them part of a main storyline in the Clone Wars cartoon TV series. Here we have the Scout Troopers that we first saw in The Return of the Jedi. They're using these electro batons, seen various times either by General Grievous's guards, by various stormtroopers in The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. They're becoming quite common now as weapons that are good for defending yourself against Jedi or other lightsaber wielding opponents. Here we have a patrol transport. First saw these in Star Wars Rebels, usually used for crowd control, that kind of thing. Here we are, one facing up against the Jedi. Here we have Grease Dritus. Grease, the pilot of the Mantis in Fallen Order, is an alien that was actually created by the developers of the game. So you'd have never seen one of these creatures before in the Star Wars universe. that's all for now. Thank you for watching. There is more to come as I work my way through the game. So goodbye for now, and may the Force be with you.